Happy Thursday. If you are watching this, this means you are looking for your lesson for this Thursday, November 12th. All right, so what I want you to do first is if you are in class, I would like you to pull out your e-learning from yesterday and check your answers with another person in the class. Make sure your masks are over your nose and your mouth, and we're going to do that for the first about 5 or 10 minutes or so of class. If you are an e-learner and you know someone else who also has science class with me, feel free to either email them, or if you guys want a video chat, and you guys can share your answers that way. And then at the end of class, probably either today or tomorrow, I'll post the answers. But this is pretty self-explanatory. So let's go through this together. For each one of them, you should have had, hopefully this will load for me. Yes, there we go. You should be able to tell me what element it is, what period it's in. That should tell you the number of shells or the number of energy levels around the nucleus, what group it's in, and that group number should tell you the number of valence electrons. And like I said, I'll post the answers to those on Friday, but hopefully between your e-learning from yesterday and working with a partner today, you'll be able to fill in this chart. Now, why did I make you learn about this stuff? Well, because we're going to move on to how to draw what's called Bohr diagrams, B-O-H-R. It's not Bohr because they're boring. It's Bohr, they're named after Niels Bohr. So he was a Nobel Prize physicist, and you probably recognize him from your atomic theory timeline. He did a lot of work with atoms, so that's why they're called Bohr diagrams, B-O-H-R. Now, what are Bohr diagrams? Well, they're models that show how electrons are arranged around the nucleus. So see these circles right here? Those are those energy levels. So back with this one where it said number of shells or number of energy levels, that's these guys. That's just something as simple as that. Now, if you remember from your reading, the first shell that goes around an atom, that is filled when it has 2 electrons in it. The other ones are filled when they have 8 electrons in them. That's called the octet rule. And an atom is stable, it doesn't want to bond anymore once it has 8 electrons in that outer shell. And it depends what is their outer shell? Well, that depends on where they are on the periodic table and what row they're in. So Bohr diagrams are just a really quick and easy visual for us to be able to see what each atom has going on as far as it goes to bonding. So first off, we have to find out how many electrons are in this element that we are trying to draw a Bohr diagram for. So you have your trusty periodic table, which hopefully you all still have. Find that element on your periodic table. Determine the number of electrons. It's the same as the atomic number. Why? We've gone over this 100 times in class. Your number of electrons equals your atomic number when you have an atom with no charge, because your atomic number is what? The number of protons, right? So protons are positive, electrons are negative. If you have a neutral atom, that means your protons are canceling out your electrons. So the number of protons equals the number of electrons. That's why your atomic number equals your number of electrons, okay? So that's how you know how many electrons to draw on your Bohr diagram. So, for example, if we have carbon, carbon has an atomic number of 6. That means 6 protons. Therefore, that means we have 6 electrons. Now, oh my goodness, I'm having such problems with this today. Now, we have our number of electrons. Now, how many shells are we going to draw around that? Sorry, I'm like moving myself all around. How many shells do we have going on around this? So this is what we did yesterday. This is what you just checked your answers from. Find out which period or row. Remember period, we have the big P, and that's how we remember it's row by row. Find out what period your element is in. Elements in the first period only have 1 energy level. Elements in the second period have 2 energy levels, then 3, then 4, then 5. Because remember, as you go down these rows in your periodic table, your atomic number is increasing. That means your energy levels are going to increase because you have more electrons, right? Remember, science isn't hard if we use our brains. So then, to draw your Bohr diagram, you're going to draw a nucleus first, because every atom, no matter what their atomic number is, has a nucleus. So you're going to draw a nucleus with the element symbol inside of it first. Then, so right now I drew my nucleus and I put C for carbon. You should all know C is carbon. We took that elements exam and most of you did really, really well on that. Carbon is in the second period down, so I know I'm going to draw 2 energy shells around the carbon. So 1, 2. That's how we get started with our Bohr diagram. Nucleus with the symbol and then the number of energy levels. Now, here comes kind of the fun part. You're going to add the electrons. So we know that carbon, we've already looked it up on our periodic table, carbon has 6 electrons. We know that the first shell can hold 2 electrons. So what you're going to do in that first energy level, you're going to make 1 electron, 2 electrons. Now electrons, since we learned on Tuesday that opposites attract, electrons, they like to stay far apart. So that's why you always write them on either side when you want to do it that way. So you have your first shell, 2 electrons. How many more electrons do we have to go? 6 minus 2 is 4. So now we have 4 electrons that we have to find a spot for. So the first shell's already full when we have 2 electrons in there. So now you have to go to that second energy level and you're going to add 4 more. Add 1 at a time. They say starting on the right, but it really doesn't matter to me as long as your shells are correct. So you are going to add those electrons onto your second shell. 1, 2, 3, and 4 for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electrons. That is our Bohr diagram for a carbon atom. Isn't that awesome? I think that's super awesome that we can visualize the electrons in the atom. So always check your work, right? We know that we have 6 electrons for carbon. We know that 2 electrons can fit in the first shell. The second shell, it can hold up to 8. It wants 8 electrons. But right now, we only have 4 in that second shell. So let's try a few together, and then I'm going to let you guys go, and I will let you use, as you sanitize them before and after, I will let you use the whiteboards in the back of the room, because everybody likes to draw on some whiteboards, right? All right, so let's draw one for hydrogen. Well, hydrogen is in the first period, so we only draw 1 shell around our hydrogen. We also make sure we have our nucleus with our hydrogen in there as well. It only has 1 electron, so we're going to put that in there. So hydrogen doesn't have a full shell, even though it only has 1 shell. It's kind of lonely. It wants that second electron. So as you guys are making your Bohr diagrams, I want you to be thinking about what it would take to make your Bohr diagrams of your elements, what it would take to make them happy, what it would take to make them stable. So this one, we know that elements are stable when they have a full octet or that they have a full shell. Hydrogen is only 1 away from having a full shell. So hydrogen probably wants to form a bond pretty badly, so that way it has that full shell. Now let's see, let's move on to helium. Helium is also in the first period, so we're going to draw 1 shell around our nucleus with helium in there. Helium has an atomic number of 2, which means we have 2 electrons. So go ahead and do 1 electron here, 1 electron here. Make sure you check your work. Does it add up? Yes, it does. Let's do 1 more together. So we're going to move on to Ne, which you all should know again from your element quiz that it's neon. Neon, if you follow along with me, if you are looking at your periodic table, neon is in the second period, so therefore you're going to write 2 shells around neon. So you first take that first shell, you're going to add 1 and 2. So we need to know, well, the atomic number of neon is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is our atomic number, so we are trying to get to 10 electrons. You fill up that first shell first. 1, 2, boom, first shell, done. Now, you need to have 8 electrons in that second energy level, which is allowed because that's our full octet, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We pair them up just so it's easier to keep track of them. So as you're putting those electrons in, do your first two first. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then to add your second round of electrons, you're going to pair them up just so it's easier to count. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. What you're going to do for the rest of class time today is I'm going to give you sample elements, and I want you to, using the whiteboards in the back of the room, my class, well, we've used whiteboards so far everybody should know where they're from. I want you to practice drawing these Bohr diagrams, okay, for every element that I give you. They're posted on Canvas, so you'll be able to find the elements that way. There's going to be nothing to hand in today, so this is just a practice day. E-learners, you're just practicing as well. If you have a whiteboard and markers at home, I recommend you practice it that way. If not, paper and pencil works fine too. So go look for those listed elements on Canvas that I want you to practice drawing Bohr diagrams for. I want you guys to take this seriously. You need to know how to draw your Bohr diagrams because eventually we're going to start drawing what's called Lewis dot structures, and we're going to be building these huge molecules, which means we're taking these Bohr diagrams and we're connecting them and seeing how they can form bonds with other molecules. So if we don't know how to draw our first set of Bohr diagrams, we're going to be lost later on when we're trying to draw all these crazy big chemical bonds, okay? So make sure that you're using your time wisely and you are actually practicing these Bohr diagrams for me, okay? That is all I have for you today. So like I said, look for those elements on Canvas. In-class learners, you guys know where the whiteboards are. They are in the back. Please, please, please keep that area clean and organized. And before you put everything back, please, please, please make sure that you take a paper towel. Please spray some sanitizer on that paper towel. Wipe down your whiteboard and wipe down your marker before you put it back in the basket, please. And also, just like when we are using our class textbooks, please make sure you are using hand sanitizer before and after those whiteboards, okay? I don't really want you guys working with a partner on this one because you might be, I don't want you guys too close to each other. But if you do have a question, it doesn't have to be a silent classroom when you guys are working on this. You can quietly talk to one another. But remember, guys, you have to stay in your seats. Please respect social distancing. Please listen to the sub. I will be back Monday. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you, and we're going to draw some Lewis dot structures next. So draw those Bohr diagrams. Stay focused. Stay on task. I miss you all, and I will see you guys Monday.